All right, welcome everybody. My name is Isaiah Gencuski. I am a program coordinator at Urban Underground. I'm happy to present this workshop along with two of our young facilitators here. A little bit about myself. Like I was saying, I'm a program coordinator at Urban Underground. I'm also a public ally, serving my one-year commitment with Urban Underground, recent graduate of Marquette University. I enjoy doing a lot of photography, video work, and just general art things in my personal life. But I'm really excited to be here and be in the space with you all. And I'll let our young people introduce themselves.
I'll go. My name is Malachi Moore. I'm part of the youth leadership team at Urban Underground. I go to Rufus King and I'm a junior. And a little bit about me is I like art and I like video games.
My name is Kendall. I attend Rufus King. The organization I'm involved in is Urban Underground. A little bit about me is I'd like to dabble in every art form. I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to act, I like to sing, the whole spectrum. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. On our agenda today, we're going to get into a little icebreaker. And we're going to understand the impact of organizing in history and in our communities today. We're going to go over some movement myths to better understand how we can all be a part of organizing and understand types of organizing, and then wrap it up with how to make change in our communities within ourselves as well. And then we're going to get y'all out of here, okay? And so here's a little quote. But not a little, this is a big quote, small words, but impactful, meaningful. If there's no struggle, there is no progress. I just thought that was very relevant to what we're talking about today with organizing and the impact of organizing. So for our icebreaker here, if we got a pretty like small group here. So if y'all want to come off on mute and answer this question, I'd love to hear your answers. If you were a wrestler, what would be your intro song, theme song, when you're walking down that big old aisle? Like, what would be your theme song? I'd love to hear that. I don't have one off the top of my mind, but we can get a couple folks to interact with us. That'd be amazing. If our young people want to go first, some of our facilitators, Kendall or Malachi, if you have one.
I can go. My theme song will probably be Eye of the Tiger. A good classic. You know the vibes.
We got someone in the chat said run the world. Okay. I don't know if I could think of one off the top of my head. Look at me asking this question and not knowing the answer to it. If anybody else, yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I'll probably say On Me by Lil Baby.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. We got anybody else that wants to unmute and join the conversation?
What was the question?
If you were a wrestler, right, and you're walking down the aisle when they walk in, like on WWE or SmackDown, what would be your intro song?
I would probably play Heating Up by Lil Baby.
Okay. I think mine would be Many Men by 50 Cent. That's a classic. You already said they're going through their Spotify. Yeah, I was just doing the same. Cool. Mal, are you doing the same thing? You going through your Spotify right now trying to figure out a song?
Yeah, mine would probably be GNF by Polo G.
GNF, nice. Nati said, Numb, Encore, Linkin Park. I was just watching some of their music videos the other day. Cool, yeah, and feel free to drop that in the chat. Really excited to hear your responses, and thank you all for sharing. But I'm gonna pass it off to Kendall now.
Alrighty, so one of our other questions, first question. You can write it down in the chat or you can unmute and speak. What is the devastating issue that is affecting your community right now? Just give a minute to answer.
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
I would say lack of sanitation in my community, like near me, a lot of trash and stuff, and gun control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say over policing.
Yeah, absolutely. Defining community however we see fit.
I would say an issue affecting my community right now is just violence in general, whether that's domestic violence or over policing, like someone had mentioned, or even the violence that comes with like patriarchy and cultural standards for girls and young women.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Struggling to unify our voices for collective liberation. Wow. That sums it up. Too divided even for the same causes. Absolutely. Rebecca said, lack of access to necessary, respectful healthcare. I feel that. That's something that I struggle with personally. Okay, cool. We're gonna keep it moving. Thank you so much for all for sharing. Appreciate your input and feedback in the conversation.
Okay, so for organizing, before we get into it, can we hear from people what organizing means to you?
To keep something in order.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I guess I'll go. I would say a group of people willing to make change.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
You ready, Mel?
Yeah.
Cool.
So for the definition we have here, organizing is the process of bringing people together in order to use their collective power to improvements in people's lives by challenging power structures.
Yeah, so today we're gonna be talking, we're gonna go in a deep dive on what organizing is on different levels.
Now, if we could have some answers in the chat, or if you want to unmute, answer the question. Have you ever worked a minimum wage job? Like, pretty sure the minimum wage is like $7.25. Yeah.
I worked at fast food restaurants when I was in high school, and I was getting paid less than $7.25 at the time. Y'all, maybe I'm a little bit older than y'all, but I was getting paid less than $7.25, and then by the time I graduated and I went to college, I was only getting paid like $8.
Yo, that's tough, especially when you're in college and you're trying to get books and stuff too. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, I had 2 to 3 jobs at one time.
Okay. Workers organized and fought for the implementation of a minimum wage so that legally bosses had to pay their workers at least a certain amount. The people who came and organized this are just normal people, you know, and they fought for what they believed in, because like, you know, they didn't want bosses treat them some type of way, giving them little pocket change when they got bills to pay, they got things to buy, you know. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and we see parallels to this today in increasing the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 now.
Has anyone ever ridden the city bus?
Yes.
Cool. I've ridden the city bus in the summer one time to get through, well, from and back to Urban Underground. So it was a cool experience for me. Um, so everyone pretty much said yes. Um, Black community organizers led a citywide bus boycott. Um, so basically, community organizers boycotted the city bus, which affected the transportation system, and it led to, um, well, today it led to everyone being able to ride the city bus without feeling oppressed.
Do you believe it is easy to obtain affordable housing in Milwaukee? We have a yes, we have no's.
Got a lot of no's in the chat. Fair. Why is, can we get some responses as to why you all think that might be?
I can share. I think housing costs are very high, and even if you find an affordable housing, it's either the housing itself is not up to standard, or is not livable, or it's just not good by any standards. And then also with like Section 8 housing or even affordable housing, there's wait lists and interviews and a lot of hoops that you have to jump through in order to get it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom works for a property management company. And she talks about how she's got this like phrase that she just is ready to tell folks on the phone if they're looking to rent from her company, and it's like, you make 3 times the amount of money, like this and that. Do you have a job? And it's like, a lot of times folks don't necessarily like. I don't. Luckily, I have my partner to live with. I don't think I make 3 times my rent in a month, definitely. So, um, my options are limited in looking at what houses I can look at. Otherwise, I would have to live at home still. And being 24, that's an option for me, but it doesn't sound too exciting.
Community organizers in New York in the 1930s fought for rent control so that landlords could not charge outrageous rent prices that poor people could not afford. Once again, people coming together and protesting for what they believe in. Because, like, housing is a necessity. It's really not fair that landlords really be forcing it with the prices and stuff, and it's just too much. So.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely a necessity.
Have you or anybody you know ever taken an ethnic studies class either in high school or in college? Yes, only in college. Yes. See a couple more yeses.
Can I ask what class was that? Or what classes, I should say?
Well, the classes I've taken in college were Hmong cultural studies. So I'm Hmong, and we actually had to like fight the administration to allow us to have ethnic studies classes at the college I went to, and also taking Latinx studies and women's and LGBTQ studies too.
No. Props to you for fighting to be able to study that. Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. I wish, being someone who's Pacific Islander, going to Marquette University, there really wasn't like Pacific Islander studies classes or anything like that. But I was fortunate enough to sit in on a women and gender studies class that I took in French. So that was an experience that I was able to have. Took a Black feminism course and a race and ethnicity justice course in college. Dope. I'm gonna get into that in just a second.
Um, Black, Chicano, Puerto Rican, Native American, and Asian American youth fought and led school walkouts in the 1960s to demand more community control over our school. These strikes led to the creation of ethnic studies programs in several high schools and colleges. Um, so basically, a group of unrepresented people came together to have their history taught, which made basically it made them feel like they were part of a community, and so they can feel safe with everyone's history being taught. This is also when the Black Student Union became relevant because they would hold universities accountable.
Thank you so much.
Have you or anyone you know voted in the last election?
I got a lot of yeses. That's good to hear.
Okay. Women and Black people organized for the right to vote. Women were granted the right to vote in 1921. Black people were granted the right to vote first after the Civil War and then again in 1964 with the passage of the Civil Rights Movement. I cannot see the rest, but
Civil Rights Act.
got me. Thank you. But yeah, as a United States citizen, you should automatically have the right to vote. Regardless, it shouldn't be selective. You know, you should automatically be able to get representation. That's what's important about voting, having some type of representation. You know, so
Yeah.
they fought for what they believed in and what should be, you know.
Yeah, representation, having a voice to advocate for your own needs, and being able to demand those needs, right?
Do you own or wear anything that is Nike, Gap, Old Navy, Guess, Reebok, Esprit, Banana Republic, or Levi's? Cool. These companies use sweatshop labor to exploit their workers. In 1995, Asian American immigrant advocates led a successful campaign against Jessica McClintock. As a result of their organizing, the workers won back wages for laid off workers, money for an education fund of garment workers, literature to inform garment workers of their rights, and a hotline to report abuse by employers. Um, so this allowed people to work in an environment where they don't feel abused working.
Kendall, you're still muted.
My bad. But now we're gonna get into movement myths. Have a quick question though. If you could have any organizer, activist, or influential person come back and take over the movement for change, who would it be? You can unmute or put it in the chat. Whatever. If you want to give an explanation why, that would be cool too.
I would say Martin Luther King or some influential Black Panther Party leaders, because the government feared them because that they were making change. And I say Martin Luther King because he was very moving with his words, and it really helped a lot of people see what they were doing wrong, and that's why I would say that.
Thank you so much, Evan. We got anybody else that wants to share with us? No? Okay, cool.
Okay, so when we go into the superhero myth, what do you guys think the superhero myth means?
to do the impossible.
Do the impossible.
That's a good guess.
That's a good guess. Anyone else?
That one event or one person can save the day and end whatever issues that we've been dealing with.
Right. So the idea that a superhero swoops out of the sky to save the day. An example would be like Martin Luther King, as what Evan stated. And for the spontaneous combustion myth, what do you guys think that means?
We can move on with the definition too, if that helps.
So it's basically the idea that movements happen like a big explosion all of a sudden, usually following a crisis.
So, to kind of give you all a frame of reference of what we're working with as far as like how the impact of organizing has changed our community, and sort of the myths around organizing. We want to empower you all in understanding like the basics of how to create change. And so, right, we're not going to wait for these mystical beings or these instantaneous reactions to happen in our community, right? Those superheroes, that combustion, that spontaneous combustion, it's within all of us, right? And so this is I believe it's a wonderful and relevant quote. This is a chant that we use at Urban Underground weekly, just to remind us about the fight that we need to continue to keep fighting, and how we got to support each other throughout building more community and love for each other. And so I'll go ahead and read it real quick. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. And that's by Assata Shakur. And so we're going to go through a couple more things about how to create change in our communities. This is more surrounded by like actual things that we can do in our community, whether that be on an individual basis or with a group of folks. But these are some of the first steps that you can take to create that change. Mal, you're muted, so.
Sorry.
You're good.
For community organizing, what are some examples of community organizing in your community?
Hi, it's your something we do for community organizing. I work with the Hmong American Women's Association. So a lot of things that we do is bring together survivors to talk about their stories, to talk about healing, as well as bring together young women and girls to create leadership and to kind of do youth prevention work in order to promote healthy relationships and become leaders in their communities.
That's cool. Anyone else?
For me, well, there's like the Chin community that I'm in, and I'm also like one of the 12 youth leaders. So we do a lot of organizing in terms of events, conferences, and service work. But there's also a recently co-founded organization called Chin Leaders of Tomorrow. And since I serve as executive director there, we are currently trying to do we're trying to raise awareness, but right now we're trying to raise mutual aid, or like kind of teach people how mutual aid works, in the hopes that we can raise funds for the ongoing crisis in Myanmar right now. So it's like trying to connect people through virtually, since right now things are very odd. So yeah.
That's really wonderful here. I'm wondering if you could expand a little bit upon what mutual aid is for folks who might not be familiar with that.
even for me, like this is my first time with our like organization raising for, well, we've done it, but I think this is one where I'm like most directly involved. But mutual aid is for, correct me if I'm wrong. But mutual aid, I think, is to kind of do crowdfunding. If you guys are familiar with crowdfunding, so I guess if you're not familiar with crowdfunding, it's like you kind of do your personal, within your personal circle, you raise those funds in order to kind of process that into the organization itself, so that it kind of goes under that organization's name. I mean, in part it doesn't, in part it does, but it's kind of like making sure that you are taking your own personal responsibility to do an outreach within your own circles and within your own communities to kind of have that aid available. So it's just like a collective effort, but on a very personal level. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect. It's just like taking inventory about what resources and it could be funds, right? I'm going to say resources in general. It could be food within the community. And it's like, hey, like y'all aren't using it. Like this is what we need to make to resolve this issue. Um, Let us know if you can reach out and help. And then those resources are redistributed to that community. So that was a perfect explanation. Thank you so much.
For advocacy, um, does anyone have any examples of advocacy?
Oh, go ahead, Hawan, go ahead.
I guess for advocacy work, there's litter campaigns and there's phone banking, and such like that. So just to do like, I guess, a word that I kind of equate, is not entirely equate, but is very similar to, is like spreading awareness. So that's what I think of, whether it be you being a primary resource or a primary source or secondary, whatever it is, just kind of advocating to spread awareness or on whatever issues necessary. So those things can be done through action items like letter campaigns and phone banking and protests and all of that.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. You just covered a spectrum of ways that we can advocate for folks. I love that. Kendall, how does advocacy show up for you?
It usually shows up like in one instance it was a thing called Denim Day, and it was like to raise awareness about like sexual assault and stuff around that nature. And we kind of put posters around the school, or people were wearing buttons, or if people asked about the denim day, like everyone wears like denim or whatever that day. Whenever somebody asked, you would inform them. You would tell them what these things are. You would talk to your peers, and that like stands for a general standpoint, like just talking about these things, educating other people around you.
Perfect.
What Kendall was saying, I also feel like that basically is a good example of education when you're explaining to somebody or educating them about something that they don't know. An example for me would be if someone is ignorant about a situation, you just let them know or pull them aside if it offended anyone, and just telling them um, basically what they did and how it was offensive to the other person. So that's how I feel like education is an example for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Education shows up in having conversations with folks like that. It also is taking time to do the research yourself too. For example, for me, like I was not familiar with the gender spectrum, and I was like, we're having all these conversations in my Friday trainings with public allies, and I was like, to be honest, I was like, I'm kind of lost here, and so um, out of respect for folks, like I need to go on the internet, go and Google it, and figure out like what does the gender spectrum look like, and from there I was able to identify like where I stood on that gender spectrum, right, and have a better understanding of why this is important to to a greater community, and why it's important to recognize that, right?
Just like what Malachi was saying about education and how Isaiah was talking about educating yourself, self-help, mainly doing the research yourself, looking into these things, trying to educate yourself as well, because you can't always depend on other people to educate you. So kind of doing the work yourself and also focusing on your own mental health and like really taking care of yourself, like not just one mental health day out of like what the month, like no, it's not helping you really. You just need to really take time and take care of yourself.
Yeah, how are people feeling with like being on Zoom all the time? Like how many times throughout quarantine have you been like, yo, I need to just chill out for a couple days. I need to not look at my computer. Anybody feel like that? I know I feel like that some days. Yeah.
And community services would mainly be aimed towards doing things for your community, like, for example, cleanups, like after the protests during the summer. There were people who cleaned up after. There were people organizing these big things for everyone to clean up. And another example was when 414 Life, they held food drives and gave people care packages and stuff like that, just providing for the community.
Yeah, exactly. It's going back to that mutual aid piece that we were talking about before, like taking inventory of what is available in the community and then redistributing that.
And then, it starts with you. Like, you want to make a change, you do it. Like, if you feel ready, you feel like you have a strong opinion about something, you really want to make a change, then, you kind of gotta take that. You can take that, just get some people by your side, do some things.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Kendall. And I just wanted to give some folks some examples of what change looks like in our community. We were talking about community organizing, advocacy, education, self-help, and community services, right? This is like the foundation of what we can do on an individual basis, but also with a small group of people. When we think about community organizing, it doesn't have to be on a large scale, right? It's about what we can do with the resources that we have access to. And I think one important piece about creating change in our community is that self-help portion is being able to take care of yourself first, protect your energy and cultivate it, while also being able to give back to the community in a way that is healthy for you, right? We don't need folks who are out here and burnt out and can't give back anymore, because that's when things kind of get a little messy, right? And so it's important to take care of yourself first and foremost before going on to the community and organizing. And so to give you all an example of, is for the most part, everybody's in the Milwaukee area, correct? Get some thumbs ups. Okay. Kendall said yes. Mal said yes. Everybody's from the Milwaukee area. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. Right. So Black Space is a group therapy session that is free for folks. A friend of mine, Darius, organizes this event every so often. They own a gallery space, and so they've gotten in touch with a therapist to come in. Kate says they're in Chippewa. That's up by Eau Claire, I'm pretty sure. Chippewa Falls, somewhere in the middle of Wisconsin. I could be wrong.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right by Eau Claire.
Thank you so much, Kate. But yeah, this is a space that's for free, right? This person doesn't make any money off of the fact that they're holding group therapy sessions, but they have access to a space, right? And they have access to a network of people who require a service or need or should have access to a service, right? And someone who's willing to take out time of their day and allow that community access to that service. And then this middle one here, Enrique is a wonderful community organizer as well. He used to be part of the Urban Underground family. And I shouldn't say used to, because I mean, once you're in UU, you're always in UU. But he's been a public ally and a community organizer, and he's empowered himself through creating a business model and printing T-shirts, right? And so he's taken his game to the next level. He's allowed for, I think we got another person trying to get in here. He has grown his business model from just printing T-shirts to now serving the greater Milwaukee area. He actually made some T-shirts for Public Allies for our group. He's done stuff for UU as well. But now he's to the point where he can offer jobs and internships to young people and learning how to, one, manage a business, right? And learn like trade skills, printing T-shirts. And along with that comes the creativity aspect. And I think that's super wonderful. And the last example here is Marquise Mays. I haven't met this gentleman. I've watched a little bit of their documentary though. It's called The Heartland. It's about growing up in Milwaukee. But this gentleman has documented this experience growing up Black in Milwaukee. I should say, he's documented this experience of growing up Black in Milwaukee. And I believe that they've done so in such a artful way. And so that's just an example of someone who is not only advocating, but organizing their community as well. And so when we think about community organizing, it doesn't just show up within ourselves, or like you have to go get a 9-to-5 office job and write grant papers and this and that. That's part of it, right? A lot of it could be within the self-help category. It could be within a creative realm or a business realm, and that can also be in the realm of art as well. There's so many different ways that we can impact our community in organizing. So take into account what your passions and interests are and how you can apply those in organizing yourself and the community, right? Because folks deserve to hear from you. You're part of the community. So yeah, those are just some cool examples that I thought you all might enjoy. We got about 9 minutes here. We're gonna wrap it up and allow for any questions or any feedback or comments that you have all for our session here today. We'd love to hear your voices and talk a little bit more about maybe what we do in the community as organizers. Or are there any difficulties in organizing as a young person? Because this is a relatively new concept for me as well.
I see that y'all are recording this. Do you know how you're gonna get this out to folks? There were some technical difficulties, so I'm sorry for being late and I missed a lot of this. I was really excited to be a part of it. So I just want to know how I might be able to watch this again so I can get all of that useful information.
Yeah, sorry, Leah might have the answer to that.
I can give some information. So what we'll be doing with the recording is putting it on a YouTube playlist. So anybody who wasn't able to view the session can afterwards. And I think I'm getting updated information too, that given some technical difficulties, the closing will be canceled. So we actually have the rest of the time in this workshop. So if people have additional questions, now's your time. Feel free to do that. I think the facilitators have been comfortable if you come off mute or use the chat. And there will still be the raffle app with the survey link. So I will be putting that in the chat. So don't worry, you won't lose the raffle chance.
Awesome, thank you.
Kendall, Mal, do you have anything to say about what it's like to be a youth organizer?
Well, with Urban Underground, being a youth organizer is pretty fun for the most part. It just kind of sucks that everything's virtual and we don't get to really be in person as much as we used to. So that's something I missed a lot.
When you were asking how did you get involved in Urban Underground, are you talking about like how to sign up or how to become a part of it, or how did we personally become a part of it?
How did you guys personally get involved in it?
Okay. I was suggested through mutual friend, and I just kind of grew attached to the people there and just the work we do, and it just, just stuck for the past since I was a freshman. Yeah.
Dang, Kendall, that's 3 years.
Yes.
Yo, that's super dope.
Oh, and to answer your question, because I didn't see your question. Sorry about that. But I technically was born into Urban Underground because my mom, she's the one of the founders of Urban Underground. So
Rebecca, were you interested in participating in stuff that's surrounded with Urban Underground, or were you just curious?
I was just curious. I'm from Madison, so not exactly gonna work on the location.
Yo, we're virtual right now, so you can definitely pop in for a session.
Cool.
What are your guys? Evan said, what are your motivations to stay with the virtual field of urban?
I would just say just the work we do and the connections I have with the people there, So it's just like I want to stay. Virtual is challenging and hard to kind of stay engaged, but it's still worth it.
I think what motivates me to stay in the virtual field is that I have an opportunity to learn something new and take away that information and apply it to my life.
Absolutely. I think if that question is for me as well, Evan, one, I got to get paid. So I got to show up and do my work. But also, I really have enjoyed getting to know some of our young people in our organization and just being able to see how brilliant they are. And it really gives me a lot of energy to interact with them and learn about new stuff every day that I wish I was learning about when I was their age. So looking back now, I'm trying to catch up on some work. From Thanks, Evan. We got, what would you say to young people who turn away from the word organizing? That's interesting. Is that because the word organizing sounds kind of like daunting in a way?
Yeah, I was like thinking like whenever I talk to young people about voting or organizing, they're just like, "Oh, I'm not interested." Like that's not something I could ever do or see myself doing. So what would you say to young people to change their minds about what organizing is all about?
I don't know. I would probably say like just just try it. It's not, even though the word organizing sounds like a whole bunch of responsibility and a lot of stress, but you grow connections to people. You're not alone when you organize. You need other people, really.
Mal, do you have a response to that?
It was kind of what Kendall was talking about, because I used to not be interested in organizing, but I feel like if I could tell my past self something that would convince him to be interested, I just say that it's bigger than what you think it is. You can apply it to so much other things, including your life. And yeah.
I would say for me now, I'm recognizing the fact that there is a way for me to integrate my passion for art or whatever that might be into the social justice field, and I'm able to meld those things together. And it's really fulfilling to not only make a change in myself that way, but make a change for other folks, whether that be 2, 3, 4, or 5 people, right? It could be one person for the rest of my life. And it's like super dope to know that, you know, your work meant something in the greater community beyond you. No problem, Kate. What has organizing done for you, and will you continue to organize as you get older?
Organizing taught me that leadership, it really does help in every aspect of your life. Like in school, you're not really just following people, going with the flow. You're doing your own thing. You're doing what you need to do. It's taught me just to go for things and be outgoing and stuff like that. When I get older, yeah, I'm probably gonna continue to do what I'm doing now. I mean, it's fun.
For me, organizing has taught me that I can't do everything alone, and that there are other people to support me on what I want to do. And I will continue to organize when I'm older.
Yo, I love that. Yeah, you can't, like, it's like going back to those myths that we were talking about. Like, you can't do this alone. Like, that wouldn't be feasible, right? So it takes a team to get through this all, a support network. So I really love that. We are at our time. So I was confused about what was happening. I don't know if we will continue our Q&A here, or if we need to like head back to the main session right now. There's
Yeah, so there won't be heading back to the main session. So we have this time for as long as you want it. So if you want another 15 minutes or so, or if we're ready to wrap up, that's fine. Some other groups had longer delays before they were able to get started. And so for that reason, there won't be that wrap up session at 3:45. So we can go for another 15 minutes if everybody wants to, or we can wrap up now. I will put that link for the survey for day 2 in the chat, but it's basically up to the group if they would like to continue with Q&A or wrap up now.
Yeah, is there any other anything else that we all want to discuss while we had this time together? I'm happy to facilitate the conversation, but if not, I would love for folks to claim that time as well if that's what they need to do as well.
I do see a question. As a youth, how can you make someone take you seriously when you are organizing?
I'd say you can't really force someone, but you can just speak your mind, like, and show your intelligence, show your maturity. You know, as youth, people don't like to take us seriously because we are younger, really. But, you know, sometimes the fact of the matter is the youth knows more than the older people sometimes, you know. So, I mean, you can't really force anyone to take you seriously, but, you know, just show them what you know. And if they don't take that, then it is what it is. Were there any other questions?
I don't see any more in the chat. If anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute to ask. Give it a few more minutes and then maybe we can wrap up for the day.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that. Everybody's day is going good. Otherwise, pretty good. Okay. Kendall, you always do that though. You're always like, I don't. How did everybody hear about Teen Summit? I'm interested in learning about that.
For me, I first heard it through the Milwaukee Youth Council, since I'm a rep for it, but we didn't take initiatives on it. So I do a youth programming with HAWA years here, our advisor. So she encouraged us, HAWA as a whole encouraged us to attend Teen Youth Summit. Yeah.
Nice. Is there a website for HAWA?
Yes, I will put in the chat. HAWA actually works closely with NWS. So we do have, they do have us, in the past, we've done like workshops too, but this year because it's virtual and it's been last minute. So I put our website down there. It's www.hawamke.org, or you can follow us on Facebook too. We do lots of all types of social justice posts and advocacy for survivors of violence. And also we do a lot of campaigning for getting people to be registered or getting people to apply for their citizenship. And so we do a lot of work with young people and with older folks to try to end violence in our community.
I got an email from my agency. I work in Chippewa Falls at a domestic abuse sexual assault agency. And we work with folks of all ages, from, like young kids to adults. And I work a lot with folks in high school. So having that as a resource is pretty awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, like organizing shows up in a whole bunch of different ways. That's kind of like the gist of what our conversation was here today, to kind of catch you up, Kate. Yeah, I guess I'm not like Kendall or Malachi in the way that, I was never a youth organizer, right? And so it wasn't until I got to college that I was recognizing that there were greater systemic issues or injustices going on. And so really want to commend all of our young folks for being here and being present in these conversations. It's important that we hear your voices and that you continue to be educated on these matters.